Thanks for joining us on Coast to Coast Pest Talk.
So, what do you want to talk about today?
Well, I was thinking I had your cultural fit analysis. I thought it'd be kind of fun to maybe do just a follow-up on
Yeah, okay.
our conversation with Phil, maybe talk through some of that. That was, I think, probably my biggest takeaway. I thought Phil was awesome.
Yeah,
Honestly, I thought that was one of the most valuable podcasts I think we've done.
Sure.
And I really appreciated he had like the four, do they want to learn about the industry? Do they love your team? I don't remember what the other two even were.
Aptitude.
Yeah, do they have the aptitude? Could they even learn it?
Yep.
And then there was a fourth. What was the?
Do they have the passion for it? Do they love your people? That was the last one.
Oh, and is it like, can they follow directions?
Yes, and will they take instruction?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, man, that's just so good. So yeah, I thought that
So I sent that along to you. So that was something from like years ago. I think we probably did that probably 5 years ago. But it's really remarkable to see like how similar that is. Like if you look at the bottom of that sheet, it's got like each of the attributes that I have them. I don't know if I call them values on there because I kind of
attributes.
Attributes. Yeah. So I think that's a interesting sort of semantic difference. I think that what people end up, and we talked about values ad nauseum in other things, but I think it's still right to talk about those things because I think I have on there what do we have as attributes down at the bottom?
So you've got conscientiousness, empathy, persistence, integrity, resourcefulness.
Okay, so now easily you could look at those and be like, "Oh, those are your company values,
core values,
core values, right?" And I think, they're things that we value in people. They're attributes, though. They're like things that you would exemplify in your behavior. They're not what our value, not what we value. I mean, we do value people having that, but I can't value conscientiousness and then weigh my decisions against conscientiousness. Like, what the heck? How does that work?
Yeah.
Right? What service line do you want to do? Well, I don't know which one's the most conscientious. Like, what? No. So, so those attributes, we score everybody against that. So we give them like sort of a 1 to 10 score. And then what was the last line below there?
And then below that, you've got job suitability. Okay. And I think in that you have sort of almost that rubric that Phil was talking about. You have 3 items,
right?
And yours are: do they get it? Do they want it? And can they do it?
Yeah. Which is basically the like, are they interested in that? Do they have the aptitude to do it? Do they, can they do it? And that sort of thing. And that was something that we had used for internal use. That whole document is sort of like, as we're evaluating people, an annual review, or if somebody we're looking at, okay, is this going to be somebody we want to move up? That was how we kind of would compare or evaluate them, so we can kind of get some sort of metric. And it would be not like a be all end all. We wouldn't like do that and be like, oh, if you score a 74 on this, you pass. Or it was more like let's score this. And Holly and I would do it separately. So we'd do it independently, and then we'd compare. Oh, you had that person at a 4, and I had him at a 7. How come? What have you seen? What have you seen that makes you pull it down, the score down, or what makes you pull the score higher? So it sort of facilitates a lot of those conversations. So, yeah. And I came across it, and it was so similar, and I just had to send it to you. I was like, oh, yeah, this will be – I just send you a lot of nonsense.
Yeah, the conversation with Phil also brought up, it was through just exactly what you said. Like in all of my interviewing, I don't have a second person that I'll bring in to the interview process. And I think that definitely helps to weed out some of our internal biases.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm looking forward to, like, my plan is I'm trying to bring in my lead tech to start doing some kind of inside like phone sales stuff for us
Oh, wow.
over the next couple months once we get a commercial space. And so I'm probably going to bring him in and have him as just a second set of eyes because he's got a lot of experience operationally now as well.
Wow. So he's going to
So
be the tandem for you. He's going to be the second
that's kind of what I've been thinking. Yeah. I mean, I don't really have anyone else right now that would want to or could really sit in that seat. So
Right. Well, that'll be interesting as you start doing that. To see how you work together, who's going to ask questions when. Are you
yeah,
thinking you're going to coach him to be more of a listener or like actively engaged or see what he's comfortable with?
I don't know. We haven't
Okay.
gotten there,
Yeah.
but and it may be an absolute flop, but I just realized that now 5 years in, I've never had two people interviewing, at the same interviewing and interviewee at the same time. So
Yeah. So we had an interview this morning. And we do it. We did our normal thing, our tandem interview. We have, and I think I've sent it to you. We have sort of like a interview checklist that we kind of follow so that we stay on the straight and narrow.
yep,
And you need to have a system because you need to have something that's defensible to say I interview this way, and every person gets asked similar questions, and there's a procedure because otherwise there can be claims of discrimination and bias if you interview sort of off the rails.
right,
So
yep,
now as we always do, we recorded the interview. Now this was the first one we did since we've done our AI analysis of our interviews, and so that was pretty interesting. And I think I sent you our big analysis report, our interview one. Did you have a chance to
yeah.
look at that at all?
No, I just kind of skimmed over it.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Yeah, you don't have to because it's going to be it's very interesting reading for me because it's about our interviewing,
right,
but for
yeah,
you it'd be a little more like, okay, that's kind of interesting. So, so what we did with this is we've recorded, and this, but if this goes out there for anybody else, we recorded interviews. Every single interview we did. We would do an audio recording. We transcribed that into text and we fed it into AI. And then we had it look for similarities. We categorized our hires based on ideal candidates and what their interview was like, and less than ideal candidates, but still good, and then ones that we didn't even offer that were terrible, right? And AI can sort of look at what questions you asked, how they answered them, the tone, what they were saying, and find similarities in your best people, how they tend to answer questions, and the B plus level people, how they tend, and then the C's and the D's, if you break them out, letter grade.
yeah,
And it was really, really interesting to see how good a listener AI is, where we would have things that we missed doing the interview, and then even reading through the transcripts that AI picks out and goes, oh, what this person was, answered these questions this way, but lacked detail and didn't support, claims and, didn't have as much drive as this other one and blah, blah, blah. So that was really cool. We had it build sort of our own GPT, custom GPT for it with a rubric for us based on our goals. And so then we can feed future interviews transcripts into it and say, okay, grade this. How similar is this interview from the attributes of our best hires interviews? And it really takes a lot of guesswork out of the whole process. I was really happy with it. One of the things that was pretty cool was AI. I had it give us like feedback on our interviewing, on our questioning. What did we ask that were good questions that we got, a lot of information? What did we ask that were terrible questions? And one of the things we found out was, based on AI's feedback, is that we will tend not to drill down far enough. There's like a second and third level question that we weren't asking. We were sort of letting people skate a little bit more than we should have, instead of adding, and this is something that Phil was saying, where you'd say, tell me more about this. What does that look like?
Yeah.
Tell me. And so with that feedback, this is the first interview since we did this analysis this morning, and I could already tell Holly and I both were way better at, we'd have an answer, but it wouldn't be, it wouldn't be forthcoming enough, or it wouldn't have enough. And we were right on. Tell me more about that. What does that look like? Could you paint me a picture of that? Or what would have been the ideal outcome for you in that situation? Or, all these sorts of follow-up questions. Were It ended up being a candidate we're not going to hire, but it was great practice.
Yeah.
And then we take that at the end and we feed it into AI and go, okay, what do you think? And so Holly and I have our take, and we fill out our forms and our assessment. And then we have a third now, AI does its assessment based on that. And then we compare all three of our notes, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like the chances of making a bad hire are like super, super reduced. The
Yeah.
chances of just relying on that gut feel. And when I think about it now, like, oh my God, just interviewing one person, asking a handful of questions, and hoping for the best. I mean, there's a reason why, like Phil said, 50% of the time you're wrong. Like,
Yeah.
now that feels like just wholly inadequate for what we need to do.
Mm.
Now, how do you feel compared I mean, I think your interview style has changed a lot since we started talking.
It's so funny because when I had to smile a bit when you said that, you need a process for interviewing. And I remember us having a conversation about that exact same thing. And man, I'm reminded of like my own hubris and pride, and how like it's easy for me to defend the way that I'm doing something, um, simply because I'm doing it that way, not
Okay.
necessarily because it's good, right?
Sure.
And like rationalize all these great, uh, reasons to do that. And my since putting actual processes in place, and I use the same printout that you sent over. That's literally what I've been using,
Oh, cool.
except for just Oregon things and not
Sure.
New York.
Sure.
It's absolutely revolutionized all my hiring. And I get and when I interview people, like I would never get, wow, this is this is such a helpful or unique, or I've never had questions like this, when I was just going off the cuff, because it turns out I'm actually not all that creative, right? I'm not as creative as I like to think. But when I started using the system you put in place and actually writing out, questions and stuff, all of a sudden everybody says, "Wow, that's the most unique interview question I've ever been asked. I've never had anybody ask me that. Wow, that's really difficult." Like those kind of things. Never had that when I was just going off the cuff.
Yeah.
Man.
Wow.
Yeah. So my interview process has completely changed over the last, year, 18 months,
Yeah.
maybe a couple years. I don't know when you sent that over. But
Right. Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. How do you think your success has been? Do you feel like it's been better? I know you've been back and forth with different people and all kinds of things.
I think it's getting, I only end up hiring now like once a year, right? Or
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
once or maybe twice a year. So it feels like every hire it's getting like exponentially better,
Okay.
and a lot of that I think is just ingraining more of the process in
Yeah.
me, and me just seeing more variables,
Yeah.
more, oh, this was a red flag and I saw it early on and I didn't act on it. I should have just had that conversation and said, "Hey, this isn't a good fit. Thanks so much. We're gonna go with somebody else." And I didn't, and then I paid for it down the line.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of that calibration internally that has to take place, that I've noticed, that you start to put it all together once you see the whole process start to finish. Somebody that you interview, they do a ride along, you hire them, you onboard them, you work with them, you have problems, they leave. You see that a couple times, or they're successful, and then
Yeah.
you start to be able to put that together, and then I think you become a much more formidable interviewer at that point.
Yeah, totally. And another area of business that is very similar in this, and I don't know, I think I was talking to you about it. I may have been talking with Wyatt about it, I don't remember. But when I was newer in business, one of my like primary sales distinctions was we don't sign you into a contract. That was, I mean, like I can't tell you how many hundreds of phone calls I had, ant accounts and commercial properties and stuff. And hey, those national big terrible companies, they're always going to try and get you in a contract. We don't sign you into a contract. And I like waved that as a little source of pride. And then as I grow my company and I realize, first off, contracts are amazing. They save your bacon all the time and it blesses the customer because they know exactly what's expected. It gives stability, it gives profitability and cash flow and all these things, consistent work for your team.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was just such an idiot. Like, I've just been shocked at how many things like you just think you have it all worked out, and then
Yep. Yep. It's funny you say that because things evolve over time. I know when we first started our first year, if you notice on our logo, we have the logo Permatech Pest Management, and at the bottom there's this Earth Conscious Prevention sort of tagline.
Yeah.
And that was our first year. We were going to be like, okay, we're going to use all natural products, all organic, the whole thing. And we did that for a season and a half. And we offered kind of both, so for people, but we found that no one really cares if you look at them voting by dollars. They do not want to pay a penny more for that. I mean, some people do, but it's such a small little niche. And we sort of went, okay, this is not, we can't be just this one thing, and had to redirect off of that. So back to the interviewing thing though. Holly and I argued about this a bunch. What constitutes a successful hire? Like, as we were doing this analysis, we had to define what is a successful hire. So if you hire someone and they work for you for 2 years with no problems, and then they move on to do something else, was that a successful hire or was that not? Are you trying to hire for forever? And so what point is it not successful? 6 months, a year? Like, how long does somebody have to stay until they have crossed over into being, yep, we picked the right person?
That's a good question. I think, I would put personally maybe a minimum of a year.
Okay.
And I think how they leave is as important in deciding that as how they come in. If they leave because they're like, I just can't take it anymore, you guys are the worst to work for and whatever.
Yeah.
It could be that you just missed a bunch of stuff or that you have a bunch of issues you need to deal with. Either way, yeah. But if they work for you for a year and they're like, this was so helpful and it really leveled up my career, and now I'm going to go and take this management position at this other company, I don't know. That feels like a successful hire to me.
Okay, so to play devil's advocate on some of these. So I think, first off, yes, definitely more than a year from my point of view. Like the cost of the interviewing, the onboarding, like I don't feel like most technicians start to be profitable till they got to repay, in work, in revenue generating work, all that onboarding cost and expense. I feel like if you can get 2 years out of a technician, you've probably broken even and made a little bit, and you probably did okay. Now, I kind of tend to want to agree and say, yeah, you know what? If I brought somebody on, they were a great cultural fit and they were awesome, and then at the end of 2 years they said, hey, I really want to go off and do this other thing. Now, should we have discovered that early on in the interview process and they're not a successful fit? There's someone, like, if you took somebody on that was too much of a rocket ship, right? And they're just taking off and going for it, and they're, I don't know, way, way excited. They're, have degrees and all sorts of stuff, and that they're going to want to leave or whatever. do you even bring them on? Like, is that it? There's not just the protecting. We always think on the negative. We always think protecting yourself against the person that's going to wreck your truck and steal and be terrible and lose customers. But there's also the person that's going to leave. That's like, and it sounds terrible as I hear myself saying this. I'm like, I want people to be successful, and if they want to leave, I want to help them go and find their best life.
Who's
But on the
somebody
flip side,
who
I also
is so overqualified that they would not be able to be content for a shorter period or for a longer period.
For a longer period,
they wouldn't be able to be content for a longer period at your company. And you currently don't have the scale in place to
advancement
have
headroom.
a position where they could be content. I could see that.
Interesting.
Like that being like, you're actually so overqualified because you're going to have a limit to, like, say they're a technician, you're going to have a limit. They couldn't single-handedly revolutionize your company necessarily.
Right.
So they couldn't necessarily create that scale.
Right. So I feel like you're kind of looking at both those, like truly looking for that match, that right person in that right seat. Because, boy, you could go wrong. I mean, you could have somebody that you have for, that seems great and is awesome. You have for 2 months and they leave for good reasons. Oh, yeah, I got this other opportunity and I'm awesome. And you loved them and wanted them to stay. That's probably a mishire.
Yes.
As well.
Yeah. But I would maybe say it's probably position dependent. So think maybe for like a more of a technical position that's going to have a slow progression over time. You might need that 2-3 years, or I think no matter what, you need longer term. That's what you're going for. But I think about for like a sales position, a rock star, super hyper ambitious salesperson could bring in $800,000 of new revenue in a year. Right.
And then move on to another sales job. Is that what you're saying?
Well, yeah. Which would still be a blessing to you, or they could create, like, they're scaling the company to such a degree that I think they could create their own opportunities within your company in a way that I think a technician couldn't. A technician can do $200,000 of services, revenue, and if they're crushing it, they could do $350,000.
Right.
But neither one of those is going to make it so that they can manage 6 other techs.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's something we've tried to consider a lot as we bring people in is what are the implications to us and potential growth. So bringing in certain people will push you in the back, right, to grow at a certain pace to satisfy what those people are going to need. Yeah. Like when we brought in Sarah a year and a half, 2 years ago now or whatever, we really contemplated, okay, this is a player salesperson. She's going to be fantastic. She's going to expect that we're going to be able to meet the pace that she wants to go at. And if you're not like willing and understand that, you're going to have problems. Like that person's either going to get frustrated and leave, or they're going to bury you and you didn't have systems in place to backfill enough capacity to do the work that they're selling. So I think there's so many things, like I feel like it's like a spider web and you pull on one little thread of it and the whole thing moves, and you got to consider all those parts.
Yep.
At the same time.
Yep, totally. Yeah, I think about one of the biggest, it's funny, one of the biggest, like, kind of that pushing in the back for me for the last, like, 6 months is I hired this, he was just a part-time position doing, like, crawl space and attic space stuff. And he was just kind of my, like, add-on. When I would sell a job, I'd have one of my techs go out and I'd throw him on. But I was like, I told him I'm going to try and get you 3 days a week of work. And I do all the quoting and stuff for those larger projects. So I was like, so I need to close 3 of these projects every week, basically. And so that was like a really helpful metric and like having the available labor was a big blessing. But in order to keep the available labor available, I needed to actually give him the work, or he was going to go elsewhere, right? So it's an interesting balance. Yeah, that's all sorts of interesting stuff, hiring wise.
Yeah, no, for sure. Awesome, man. Okay, well, I'm gonna go eat some dinner.
I'm gonna eat some lunch right here. My son just brought it in to me.
Ooh, what do you got?
A sandwich on homemade sourdough bread.
Hey,
Dang.
right on. Yeah.
Crazy.
Oh my God. Speaking of homemade, Holly makes. We call them Gigi's buns. It was her grandmother's biscuit recipe. So it's grandma's buns, and they are fantastic. And every year she's been trying to make them since her grandma died, like 3 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. She's been trying to make them every Thanksgiving and every Easter, and they were it was terrible first couple years, and she's been getting better and better. And this Easter was like the best version she's done so far. And they're like this yeast leaven, biscuit that sits overnight, and it's a whole big thing. But she's getting better and better about it.
I love homemade bread. It's one of the things that makes my heart sing. And when I eat, like, there's certain breads now, man, I'm like a bread snob. Gosh, how did I become like this? So there's certain breads that I'm like, this is not worthy of being called bread. It's so bad compared to homemade bread.
Yeah, most of the regular, whatever Wonder Bread or like normal, it's terrible.
It's like sawdust.
It's no good.
Although I will say, like just like straight white Wonder Bread, there's something so nostalgic for me about eating like
peanut butter and jelly.
or like a turkey and cheese sandwich on some Wonder Bread. But
there you go.
As I'm dying inside.
That's right.
All right, go eat some dinner.
You've been listening to Coast with Andy, can't pronounce his last name, and Gabe Seymour. Join me, Pete Chopin, probably in another 5 years from now when they invite me on again.